What's up, vinyl community? It's Robert Fithen, and today I want to talk about those special 45 single mixes from the 80s that sound a little different than the version that's on an album. Get your new vinyl album ever and get it home, and maybe one or two of the tracks don't sound quite like you remembered them. It's probably because there was a special single mix for that, and that's what was played on the radio, and usually that's what the music video was. So let's get started with 1979. Sure, that's the way to start the 80s. Actually, this was still on the charts in the 80s. Of course, I'm talking about Pink Floyd, Another Brick in the Wall, Part 2. And of course, you know, if you have this on the vinyl, which you probably do, the song starts with a scream. Basically, a scream goes into the "We Don't Need No Education," and thus starts Another Brick in the Wall, Part 2, which is why you need the 45 there, so you get that little funky little intro that sometimes is on the radio. I think there's a similar version on a collection of dance songs, but the original is on the 45. ZZ Top, Eliminator, excellent album with all kinds of great songs on here, not just the big hits. The whole album's great, from 1983. Kicking off side 2 with Legs. Now, Legs is a song that is pretty cool on the album, but I definitely prefer the single remix of this. It's got a different vocal track. Sounds a little more like he's a little more awake in the single version. Plus, it's got a little more energy with the mix there, and definitely prefer the single mix of Legs. You can also get that on ZZ Top's Greatest Hits. But yeah, Eliminator, great album all the way through. Duran Duran, Seven and the Ragged Tiger. The song that kicks that off is the Reflex, sounding completely different than it does on the 45 version here. This is what was usually played on the radio. This is the video. This is the one that starts off with the guitar. This is the one that starts off with the reflex, fluff, 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 fluff. You know, that kind of thing. It's got a lot of those 80s like sampled voice things in there. Total 80s thing going on. This one just kind of sounds more like a basic Duran Duran song. So if you want the hit version, get the 45 single of the Reflex. Of course, that is on a bunch of Duran Duran compilations as well. The Cure, The Head on the Door, Close to Me sounds a little bit sparse on this. A little bit sparse on this. Some instrumentation seems to be missing. I actually heard this song first on this. What is this? Staring at the Sea. This one is Staring at the Sea. The cassette is called Standing on a Beach. But it's their singles, and Close to Me, the single remix, is just fantastic. It's probably my favorite Cure song, the single remix of Close to Me. This one is a close second. It sounds okay, but this one adds a little more of the energy, a little more excitement. Of course, there's another remix of Close to Me that you can find on their remix album. It's the Closer mix. That's totally a different thing. That's totally not my thing. Anyway, Heart made a big comeback in 1985 with this album featuring songs like These Dreams and What About Love? Also, Never, a song on here called Never, that was re-recorded for the single release. And so, yeah, it's a total different vocal track from Anne. She is a lot more spunky, a lot more energy in the single vocal there, and just a different mix of the, a little more keyboard action, a little raw sound on the single mix than on the original album version for Heart's Never. And by the way, that's what we're concentrating on, not single versions where they've just edited a big chunk of the album version out. That is definitely not what I'm talking about, or they've just faded it out early. No, we don't want those. These are single remixes that it's a totally different remix, or sometimes in that case, total different vocal track. Madonna, the Like a Prayer album features Express Yourself, which, again, the video version, the single version, is definitely the desired version for this. The album version has those horns in it, and it just sounds like some kind of, I don't know, very dated sounding. Doesn't sound very Madonna. She's like, you know, don't settle for second best, put your love to the test. It's just totally out of place. You can also get not only the single version, but these great remixes on here as well. This was just like a dance floor burner when it was out. It's still one of Madonna's, probably her biggest song as far as what is, you know, when the test songs for radio or whatever with the audiences, this usually comes back as the biggest track from her. Express Yourself, and you definitely want to, you probably don't want that album version. You probably want some kind of remix. She Bop from Cyndi Lauper from She's So Unusual, another side starter that started side 2. The video version, the single version, again, energy, livelier. It's usually the same old story with the single mixes. They're more fun, they're more energetic, they've got a little more going on, they got a little more of that 80s pizzazz, you know, that little 80s stuff sprinkled on there. She Bop, no exception. I definitely prefer the 45 version of She Bop, which is, again, also the video version. A little more fun going on there. And, of course, we all know what the song She Bop is about, right? Yes, it's about masturbating. Check out the video for even more clues than the song lyrics leave. Def Leppard. A lot of remixes on here for the singles, including Pour Some Sugar on Me. This is one of the ones where I would say the single version and the album version are pretty much neck and neck as far as popularity on the radio and whatever. Album version is the one that starts off by saying, step inside, walk this way, you and me, babe, hey, hey. The single version is the one that starts off with heavy like a bomb, 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 heavy like a bomb, and then goes into more of this is kind of more, again, of the 80s kind of effects and accentuations on the different instruments, especially the keyboards. This one is a little more straightforward. But yeah, Pour Some Sugar on Me. Rocket is also a big remix as well from that album. Prince, Parade, music from Under the Cherry Moon. Kiss, just a slight difference on the single version of this. You don't get the little after he says the last time, your kiss. Instead, on the album version, it goes right into the Another Lover Like You Need a Hole in Your Head song, cutting off that cool little guitar part. It's kind of like the opposite of the Pink Floyd song. You get the little guitar ditty at the end of this, but of course, get the single version and you can have that back again. I think it's that way on the best of Kiss or the best of Prince and whatever. So concentrating on 80s for the most part here, because a lot of the 70s single remixes, they weren't heard a lot. Have you heard like Grateful Dead's Truckin' single remix? I don't think that ever got played. It's really bad sounding. There's some like a Rebel, the US single remix from David Bowie. I don't remember that ever getting played. That's not very good either. Sometimes, like in the 70s especially, you definitely want to stick with the original album version. The Clash, Combat Rock has Rock the Casbah. Of course, that was remixed for the 45. In the original album version, the Jet Fighter little signals and tones are a lot louder in this. And in the single version, when he says Crazy Casbah Jive, kind of towards the middle of the song, this is pretty straightforward. Crazy Casbah Jive! This one, it echoes the jive and it goes on and on. Crazy Casbah Jive! So Bob Clearmountain, I think, remixed this. But yeah, the single version of Rock the Casbah, pretty much, again, just as popular as the album version. They're kind of interchangeable as far as what's on the radio and then what comes up as compilations. As long as we're talking about punk rock, let's talk about the Ramones. I know this is the 70s, but Sheena's still a punk rocker, right? It showed up on some versions of this, and then when they reissued it, they put the Carbon Nut glue back on there and left Sheena off. So Sheena is now on here. But Rocket to Russia, some of these they have the single version of, and some of them have the album version. I think the remix, they put the album track back on, but if you want the single remix of Sheena's a Punk Rocker, it's very, very slight. They just add a little bit of, I think it's like a percussion tree or like a tambourine or something on there, like, I don't know, some kind of percussion thing on the beats there for the single remix, which you can find on the CD Ramones Mania. Okay, we move on. Let's just stay in the 70s for one more, because, it's the Rolling Stones. Miss You from Some Girls. Here's the special disco version. But did you know the single version of Miss You is actually different than the album version as well? The single version, it's a totally different ad-lib part from Mick Jagger. It's a little bit different. This shows up on compilations too. I think this is on 40 Licks. It's on Jump Back. But yeah, the single version of totally different vocal part from Mick Jagger on there than on the album version, especially where the ad-libbing is. Okay, one more from the 70s. Can't do it without Rufus, because I love the single version of Tell Me Something Good. It's a different mix. It's a little more, again, a little more energy. It's a little tighter. This is a little looser, not as much going on in the album version. So yeah, Tell Me Something Good, written by Stevie Wonder for Rufus. Rags to Rufus is where you can find the original version, but I definitely prefer the single mix of that. Back to the 80s. With Wham! Now here's an anomaly, because George Michael's he's always did things his own way. He had definitely his own way of doing stuff. And releasing a single that's longer than the album version. Now that hardly ever happens, but that is definitely the case with Everything She Wants. There's a whole extra bridge. There's a whole extra verse. The song ends up being almost 6 minutes long on the single. It's not that long on the album version, so I don't hear of that a lot, where the album version is actually shorter than the single remix. But yeah, Everything She Wants. The part that's in the single that's not on the album is the part about my situation never changes, something about wages. It's that part. I don't know about the UK or any other version. This is the US version. So we moved on to, oh my God, this one's a sore spot. Falco, Rock Me Amadeus. 12-inch version's fine. Probably just great with that 7-inch version. Stay away from the American release, Falco 3. I hate this so much. I've even talked about this in other videos. It was my first experience with buying something and, you know, it turns out to be different than you expected. I bought Falco 3 expecting the German, you know, version of Rock Me Amadeus, like in the video that I would always see on MTV. It's what they played on the radio. It's him basically going in German, and I was learning German at the time, so I felt so cool because I could understand actually some of what he was saying. And then I go out and buy the tape, save my money up, and it turns out to be this stupid friggin' version with this guy giving dates. 1865, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart took a shit in the garden and 3 tulips grew. It's just awful. You ever hate a song so much? It's like actual hate. It's like you don't not like you hate the song, like with the disdain, like a hate. I hate that version of Rock Me Amadeus. I know a lot of people prefer that one or like it. That's fine, whatever. I cannot stand that dates version of Rock Me Amadeus. Definitely want the single version or the 12-inch mix of that, and won't be fooled again by Falco, tell you that. REM Radio Free Europe came out on their very first release, Murmur. It's also got a single remix. It sounds a little bit different that most people can find on the eponymous compilation. I don't think a lot of people were walking around with the first REM 45 in their pocket or, you know, on their player or whatever. But Murmur, and a little bit different. It's a little faster on the single version. Pat Benatar, another slight change. Crimes of Passion was the album where you'll find Hit Me With Your Best Shot. The single version for this has a little guitar part at the intro that is not on this. It's mixed into this, not on this, and not on any Pat Benatar compilation that I've ever heard. The only way to get it, as far as I know, is to get the actual single of Hit Me With Your Best Shot with the little guitar riff at the beginning. I never hear it on the radio either. I never hear it on any radio station. They always play the album version. Footloose, we're getting into slight differences now. Slight difference with Footloose, the song from Kenny Loggins. The single version starts with just a solo guitar, just riffing. And of course, the album version starts off with drums. After the intro's done, the rest of the song is identical. Mr. from Welcome to the Real World. Kieri Lazon down the road or whatever. This 45 is the one that has the cool cold ending. Where the Kieri lays on down the road, boom, and the song ends. The album version keeps going and fades out. So if you want the cold ending where it just boom ends, you got to have the 45, and it's probably on Greatest Hits as well. Huey Lewis in the News, I Want a New Drug is the same way. Totally different guitar solo, guitar sound in the album version than in the single. And in the single, the song ends cold. Da-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. And in the album version, the guitar just keeps riffing, keeps soloing all the way through, and eventually fades out at almost 5 minutes. So a different ending there, basically, with I Want a New Drug. A little bit of a different mix. And that's going to wrap things up, except for one left. The one where I definitely, absolutely, 100% prefer the album version over the single version, and it's an 80s song, and it is Whitesnake. Here I go again. My God, this is awful. They put in a bunch of keyboard. Here I go again on my own. Oh my God. Wow. No. I realize this song was made a long time ago from their Saints and Sinners album, I think, or maybe even earlier than that. But I'm strictly talking about the 87 versions. The album version is the one that just is more of a rock song. Rock stations played this. Pop stations played this. And this is the one that starts off their Greatest Hits CD is the single version. Definitely, absolutely, 100%, never, not the case, prefer the album version of Here I Go Again, the 87 Whitesnake there. So that actually wraps it up. Just had to get that in there. Robert Fithen here. Thank you so much for watching, and please consider subscribing if you haven't done that already. And thanks to everyone who's subscribed lately. I got a lot of new subscribers. Thanks to everyone who comments on the videos. Love the comments, love the interaction. It's why I do this, and love the vinyl community videos that are coming out. Love watching those as well. Keep them coming, and I will talk to you soon.